Admiral Kethvar stared at the display screen in disbelief. The numbers made no sense. Something was moving through space at speeds that should have torn any ship apart. The energy readings were wrong too. Nothing in the galaxy produced that kind of signature. "Run the scan again," he ordered his bridge crew. The young sensor officer's claws clicked nervously on his console. "Sir, I've run it 12 times. The readings are the same." Kethvar had commanded ships in the Zephyrian Empire for 40 cycles. He had seen battles that shook star systems. He had witnessed the power of the Empire's greatest weapons. But this single dot on his screen made him feel afraid in a way he had never experienced before. "What do we know about it?" he asked. "The object is roughly 800 meters long. It appears to be a ship, but the materials are unknown. The energy output suggests a power source we cannot identify. And, Admiral," the officer paused. "Speak. It's moving through the radiation fields around the dying star like they don't exist. Those fields would kill any crew and melt any hull we know of." Kethvar's 4 eyes blinked slowly. The radiation fields around Kepler-7 were a natural barrier that protected this sector. Nothing living could survive in that poisonous space. Yet something was not just surviving but moving through it at impossible speeds. On the other side of that radiation field, Captain Sarah Chen stretched in her command chair. She had been awake for 6 hours after spending 30 years in cold sleep. Her body still ached from the long hibernation, but her mind was sharp. The UES Defiance had finally reached its destination. "Report," she said to her bridge crew. Lieutenant Martinez checked his instruments. "We're clear of the radiation field, Captain. No damage to the ship. All systems are running perfectly." Chen nodded. The Defiance was built tough. Earth's engineers had designed her to handle anything space could throw at them. After all, if you could build a ship to survive Earth's most dangerous environments, space should be easy. "Any signs of life out here?" she asked. "Scanning now," replied Dr. Patel from the science station. "Captain, you need to see this." The main screen lit up with dots. Hundreds of them. Ships, stations, and structures scattered across dozens of star systems. This wasn't empty space at all. "My God," whispered Chen, "we're not alone." Back on the Zephyrian command ship, alarms began to sound. The unknown vessel had emerged from the radiation field and was now visible on all sensors. More disturbing, it was sending out scanning beams of its own. "Admiral," called the communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the unknown ship?" "Yes, sir. But it's in a language not in our database. The computer cannot translate it." Kethvar felt his blood grow cold. In 1,000 years of expansion, the Empire had cataloged every known language in the galaxy. How could there be a species they had never encountered? "Keep working on the translation, and send a standard greeting on all frequencies." On the Defiance, Dr. Patel was analyzing the incoming transmission. "Captain, someone's trying to talk to us. The language is completely unknown, but I'm running it through our translation matrix." Chen sat forward. "First contact." Every Earth ship carried protocols for this moment, but no one had expected it to happen so far from home. "Keep working on it, and prepare our own greeting." Standard first contact package. Minutes passed. Both ships worked frantically to break the communication barrier. Finally, the Zephyrian computer made progress. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we have partial translation. The message says something about United Earth ship and peaceful contact." Earth? Kethvar had never heard of such a world. What else? They identify themselves as human. The ship is called Defiance. They want to establish diplomatic relations. At the same time, the human computer cracked the alien language. "Captain," said Dr. Patel, "they're calling themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They seem to control this entire region of space." Chen felt a chill. Empire. That word carried weight. It suggested vast territory, millions of worlds, and military power beyond imagination. And Earth had just wandered into their space with a single ship. "Send our response," she ordered. "Tell them we come in peace, and request permission for diplomatic contact." When the human message reached the Zephyrian ship, it caused chaos on the bridge. The translation was clear, but the implications were terrifying. "Sir," said the xenobiology officer, "I've completed scans of their ship. The life forms inside. They're impossible." "Explain." "The bone density is 3 times higher than any known species. Their muscle structure suggests strength levels that would crush most beings. And their brains." The officer paused. "Sir, their neural activity is operating on quantum frequencies that should kill any living creature." Kethvar stared at the data. These humans were built like living weapons. Their bodies were designed for violence and survival in ways that defied nature. "How many are on that ship?" "Approximately 500, sir. 500 creatures that existed in defiance of biological law, traveling in a ship that moved through deadly radiation like it was empty space." Kethvar realized he was looking at something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Send word to Imperial Command," he ordered. "Tell them we have a situation. And get me more ships. Many more ships." On the Defiance, Captain Chen was reviewing the scans her crew had taken of the alien vessel. The ship was beautiful in its own way, but clearly built for war. Its weapons were obvious even to human eyes. "Captain," said Lieutenant Martinez, "I'm picking up movement. More ships are coming. A lot more." Chen watched as her tactical display filled with new contacts. 12 ships, then 20, then 50. All of them moving toward her position. "Well," she said quietly, "this is either going to be a very friendly welcome, or we're about to find out just how good our weapons really are." Dr. Patel looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm intercepting their communications. They're not talking about diplomatic protocols." "What are they talking about?" "Military formations, combat readiness, and..." He paused. "They're calling us a potential threat that needs to be neutralized." Cries. Chen felt her training kick in. Earth had prepared for this possibility. Humans had always known that if they met alien life, they might not be welcomed with open arms. "Red alert," she ordered. "All hands to combat stations. It looks like our peaceful mission just became something else entirely." As both fleets prepared for what might come next, neither side realized they were about to witness the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The humans thought they were exploring empty space. The Empire thought they were dealing with another minor species to be catalogued or conquered. Both sides were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet form up around the human vessel. 50 ships of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy, the finest military force in the galaxy, surrounded one alien ship. It should have been a show of overwhelming power. Instead, it felt like a dangerous gamble. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "Imperial Command is demanding a full report. They want to know why we haven't simply destroyed the intruder." Kethvar understood the pressure. The Empire had rules about unknown vessels in their territory. Those rules usually ended with the unknown vessel becoming debris. But something about this situation felt different. "Tell Command we are proceeding with standard first contact protocols," he replied. "The vessel claims peaceful intent." What he didn't say was that the human ship's weapons had been tracking his vessels from the moment they arrived. Not 1 or 2 guns, but dozens of weapon systems, moving with precision that made his best gunners look clumsy. On the Defiance, Captain Chen studied the tactical display. Her ship was surrounded, but her crew remained calm. Earth training had prepared them for exactly this scenario. "Captain," said Commander Torres from the weapons station, "I count 50 hostile vessels in attack formation. Their weapons are powered but not targeted. Defensive posture only," Chen ordered. "We don't fire unless fired upon. But track every one of those ships." "Doctor," Patel looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm intercepting more of their communications. There's disagreement in their fleet. Some want to talk. Others want to attack immediately." Chen nodded. "Politics and military tension. The same as back on Earth. At least some things were universal." The deadlock continued for 2 hours. Then everything changed. A new voice crackled over the Zephyrian command frequency. Fleet Admiral Zorith, speaking directly from the Imperial capital world. Admiral Kethvar, you will escort the alien vessel to Station Gamma for processing. Use whatever force is necessary. The Empire will not appear weak before an unknown species. Kethvar felt his heart sink. Station Gamma was a military prison. Escort to Station Gamma meant capture or destruction. There would be no diplomacy. Acknowledged, Fleet Admiral, he replied, knowing he had no choice. He switched to the communication frequency they had established with the humans. Captain Chen. By order of the Imperial Fleet, you will change course to coordinates I am transmitting. You will be escorted to Imperial Station Gamma. On the Defiance Bridge, the translation came through clearly. Dr. Patel ran the coordinates through the navigation computer. Captain, he said quietly. Station Gamma appears to be a military facility. I'm detecting heavy weapons, prison cells, and what looks like interrogation equipment. Chen felt her jaw tighten. So much for peaceful first contact. Send a response, she ordered. Tell them we appreciate their invitation. But we decline. We prefer to conduct diplomacy in neutral space. When that message reached the Zephyrian fleet, it caused an uproar. No one declined Imperial orders. No one. Admiral, called the tactical officer. The alien ship is not changing course. They're maintaining position. Kethvar found himself in an impossible situation. His orders were clear, but something told him attacking this ship would be a terrible mistake. Send a squadron of fighters, he ordered reluctantly. Have them escort the vessel to the proper heading, minimal force only. 6 Zephyrian fighters broke formation and moved toward the Defiance. They were beautiful ships, sleek and fast, with weapons that could punch through most armor. Lieutenant Martinez tracked them on his display. Captain, 6 small craft approaching. They're powering weapons. Shields up, Chen ordered. But do not target them yet. The lead Zephyrian fighter pilot, Wing Commander Velth, opened his communication channel. Human vessel, you will change course immediately, or we will open fire. Chen's response was calm and clear. Zephyrian vessels, we have no hostile intent. We request you maintain safe distance. Velth had been flying combat missions for 15 years. He had forced dozens of ships to surrender, with nothing more than a show of force. This should have been simple. Human vessel, this is your final warning. Change course now. When no response came, Velth made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He targeted the human ship's engines with a warning shot, the minimum force necessary to disable but not destroy. On the Defiance, alarms screamed as the targeting sensors detected weapons lock. Captain, shouted Torres, we're being targeted. Earth military doctrine was simple and brutal. If you point a weapon at a human ship, that ship will defend itself. There were no warnings, no negotiations, no second chances. Return fire, Chen ordered. Disable their weapons. What happened next lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. It was recorded by every sensor in the Zephyrian fleet, and the recordings would be studied for years to come. The Defiance's point defense systems activated with inhuman precision. Laser turrets that could track microscopic debris moving at orbital speeds locked onto the Zephyrian fighters. The humans weren't aiming to destroy, just to disable. But their idea of disable was very different from what the aliens expected. The lead fighter's weapons systems simply vanished, not damaged, not destroyed, surgically removed with cuts so precise they looked like they had been made in a factory. The second fighter lost its engines, the third lost its communications array. But the weapon systems were faster than human thought. In the time it took the first 3 shots to hit their targets, the defense computers had analyzed the remaining fighters and determined they were still a threat. 3 more shots, 3 more fighters cut apart with impossible precision. Wing Commander Velth found himself floating in space in an escape pod, watching pieces of his fighter drift away. His squadron was gone. 6 of the Empire's finest fighters, destroyed in less time than it took to blink. The silence on the Zephyrian command frequency was deafening. Admiral, whispered the tactical officer, the human weapons. They moved faster than our computers could track. How is that possible? Kethvar stared at the tactical display. The human ship hadn't moved. It hadn't even rotated to face the fighters. The weapons had simply appeared, fired, and vanished back into the hull. It was like watching a predator swat flies. "Get me Fleet Admiral Zorith," he said quietly. When the connection opened, Zorith's voice was full of rage. "Admiral, what is the status of your mission?" "Sir," Kethvar replied carefully, "the human vessel has demonstrated defensive capabilities beyond our current understanding. I recommend we reconsider our approach. Are you suggesting the Empire retreat from a single alien ship?" Kethvar looked at his tactical display, whereas 50 ships surrounded one human vessel that had just demonstrated it could destroy Imperial fighters faster than they could react. "Sir, I'm suggesting the Empire think very carefully about our next move." On the Defiance, Captain Chen was reading the damage reports. 0 casualties, 0 damage to her ship, 6 alien fighters disabled with minimal force. It was exactly what Earth training had prepared her crew to do. "Captain," said Dr. Patel, "I'm intercepting massive communication traffic from the alien fleet. They seem shocked." Chen wasn't surprised. Earth's military technology was designed around a simple principle. Humans were probably going to be outnumbered in any fight. So every shot had to count. Every weapon system was built to defeat multiple enemies with maximum efficiency. "Any signs they're planning another attack?" she asked. "No, ma'am. If anything, they seem to be pulling back." Chen nodded. Maybe now they could have that diplomatic conversation after all. But deep in Imperial space, news of the incident was spreading. A single alien ship had humiliated an Imperial squadron without taking any damage. The implications were staggering. Emperor Valdris himself called an emergency session of the War Council. The question was simple but terrifying. If one human ship could do this, what could 100 do? What could 1,000 do? For the first time in Imperial history, they faced the possibility that they were not the strongest force in the galaxy, and somewhere in the depths of space, more human ships were traveling toward alien territory, unaware that first contact had already gone very, very wrong. Fleet Admiral Zorith stood in the war room of Imperial Command, staring at the tactical hologram. The humiliation of 6 fighters being destroyed in seconds had reached the highest levels of government. The Emperor himself demanded action. "This ends now," Zorith declared to his assembled commanders. "I don't care what technology these humans possess. Numbers will overwhelm them." The fleet he assembled was the largest hunting force in Imperial history. 12 heavy cruisers, each one capable of destroying small moons. 40 destroyers, with enough firepower to level cities, support ships, carriers, and enough fighters to darken the space around a star. "Admiral Kethvar will guide us to their position," Zorith announced. "We will demand their surrender. If they refuse, we will show the galaxy what happens when you humiliate the Empire." Kethvar felt sick as he watched the massive fleet prepare to jump. He had tried to warn them that the humans were different, but political pressure and military pride had won out over caution. 3 days later, the largest war fleet in Imperial history materialized around the human ship. Captain Chen was in her ready room when the alarm sounded. She rushed to the bridge to find Lieutenant Martinez, staring at a tactical display filled with red dots. "Report," she ordered. 52 ships just jumped in, Captain. They're in full battle formation. We're completely surrounded." Dr. Patel was already working his console. "Captain, I'm intercepting their communications. The fleet commander is demanding our immediate surrender." Chen looked at the odds. 52 ships against 1. In any conventional battle, it would be suicide to fight. But humans had learned long ago that conventional thinking got you killed. "Open a channel," she ordered. Fleet Admiral Zorith's face appeared on the screen. He was an impressive figure, with the bearing of someone who had conquered star systems, but Chen had faced down corporate executives and military commanders on Earth who could be just as intimidating. "I am Fleet Admiral Zorith of the Imperial Navy," he began. "You will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to Imperial justice." Chen stood calmly in front of the camera. "Admiral, I'm Captain Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. We have no quarrel with your empire. We're explorers, not conquerors. You destroyed 6 Imperial fighters. That is an act of war. We defended ourselves when your ships targeted us with weapons. That's what any reasonable being would do. Zorith's expression grew dark. You have 1 minute to surrender, or my fleet will destroy you. Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew was ready, waiting for orders. Earth had trained them for exactly this situation. Outnumbered, outgunned, and far from home. Admiral, she said to Zorith, I appreciate the offer, but we're going to decline. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to show these aliens why Earth builds its ships tough. Helm, set course for the Kepler system. Maximum burn. The Defiance leaped forward like a startled animal. The Imperial ships, caught off guard by the sudden movement, were slow to react. By the time they began pursuit, the human ship was already pulling away. Impossible, breathed Zorith's tactical officer. No ship can accelerate that fast. The crew should be crushed. But humans were built differently. Their bodies could handle acceleration forces that would kill most species. Earth's ships were designed to take advantage of that fact. All ships pursue, Zorith ordered. Do not let them escape. What followed was a chase across 3 star systems. The human ship moved through space like it was fleeing through Earth's oceans, using every obstacle and advantage to stay ahead of its pursuers. Captain Chen had made a decision that baffled her crew. Instead of running to empty space where they might escape, she was leading the Imperial fleet through the most dangerous regions she could find. Captain, called Commander Torres, you're taking us into the asteroid field around Kepler 4. Our shields can't handle that kind of bombardment for long. The enemy shields can't handle it at all, Chen replied. Trust me, she was right. The Imperial ships were designed for clean battles in open space. The asteroid field was a nightmare of spinning rocks, each one capable of crushing a hull. The Imperial fleet was forced to slow down and navigate carefully. But the Defiance moved through the field like it belonged there. Human reflexes, trained on a world where split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death, allowed them to dance between obstacles that would destroy other ships. How are they doing that? Demanded Zorith, as he watched the human ship twist through spaces barely wider than its hull. Sir, replied his navigation officer, their movement patterns don't match any known piloting techniques. They're treating this like a 3-dimensional obstacle course. That's exactly what they were doing. Earth pilots trained in asteroid fields, underwater mazes, and atmospheric storms that would terrify most species. To them, this was just another day at the office. The chase continued into the radiation fields around Kepler 3. The Imperial ships had to maintain safe distance from the deadly energy, but the human ship plunged straight into the worst of it. They're insane, whispered one of Zorith's commanders. That radiation will cook their crew alive. But the humans had built their ship to handle radiation that would sterilize most vessels. Earth's environment had prepared them for conditions the galaxy considered impossible to survive. Hours passed. The Imperial fleet was becoming spread out, some ships damaged by the obstacles, others falling behind due to the punishing pace. That's when Captain Chen sprang her trap. All stop, she ordered. Reverse course. We're going hunting. The Defiance spun around in space and headed back toward its pursuers. But now, it wasn't running. It was stalking. In the swirling radiation of the Maelstrom Nebula, sensor readings became confused and unreliable. The Imperial ships found themselves flying blind, trying to track a vessel that seemed to appear and disappear at will. The first Imperial destroyer died without ever seeing what killed it. Its engines simply stopped working, cut apart by precision strikes from weapons that fired from the radiation storm itself. Contact left, shouted a Zephyrian sensor operator. No, wait. Contact right. I can't get a clear reading. The Defiance was using the nebula like a hunter using tall grass. It would appear long enough to disable a ship, then vanish back into the interference before return fire could be coordinated. This is impossible. Zorith raged as another of his ships went dark. How are they targeting us when we can't even see them? Dr. Patel could have answered that question. Human sensor technology was designed to work in Earth's chaotic electromagnetic environment. The interference that blinded Imperial sensors barely affected human equipment. One by one, Imperial ships found themselves drifting helpless as their engines and weapons were surgically removed. The humans weren't trying to kill. They were proving a point. Finally, only Zorith's flagship remained operational. The human ship appeared directly in front of them, close enough that they could see the hull markings. "Fleet Admiral," came Captain Chen's voice over the communication system. "I think we need to talk." Zorith stared at the human ship. His massive fleet had been reduced to floating wreckage by a single vessel. His pride as a military commander was in ruins. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same thing we wanted from the beginning," Chen replied. "To establish peaceful relations. But first, you need to understand something. We didn't come here to conquer or threaten anyone. We came to explore and make friends. You destroyed my fleet. We disabled your fleet. Every one of your crews is alive and safe. We could have killed them all, but we didn't. Think about what that means." Zorith did think about it. The humans had shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. They had fought only to defend themselves. And even then, they had held back their true power. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "We're human," Chen replied. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived by becoming very good at not dying. But we also learned something else. Surviving is better when you have friends to help you." As rescue ships arrived to collect the Imperial survivors, Zorith sent a message that would change everything. His report to the Emperor contained 3 words that had never before appeared in an Imperial military communication. "Request immediate surrender." For the first time in Imperial history, an admiral was recommending that the Empire surrender to an enemy force. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun. Emperor Valdris stood before the greatest minds of his empire. The council chamber had witnessed declarations of war, the division of conquered systems, and the celebration of 1,000 victories. It had never witnessed what was happening now. An emergency session called because the Empire's finest fleet had been defeated by a single ship. "Explain to me," the Emperor said quietly, "how this is possible." Fleet Admiral Zorith stood at attention, his uniform still stained from his time in the escape pod. "Your Majesty, the humans fight unlike anything we have ever encountered. They use space itself as a weapon. They move through hazards that should destroy them. And their technology," he paused. "Their technology is beyond our understanding." The Emperor's advisor, ancient scholar Ethmiran, stepped forward. His species had been among the first conquered by the Empire. Over 800 years ago, his people had become willing servants, trading their knowledge for protection. "Your Majesty," Ethmiran said carefully, "I believe I may have an explanation." "Speak." "In my studies of galactic biology, I have come across references to theoretical species. Beings that could evolve only under the most extreme conditions. We called them Death World Evolved. Creatures shaped by planets so hostile that they would become living weapons." The Emperor leaned forward. "Continue." "Most life develops on garden worlds. Planets with stable weather, gentle gravity, and peaceful environments. Such worlds produce intelligent species that are clever but soft. The Empire has conquered hundreds of such species." Ethmiran activated a holographic display showing various worlds. "But rarely, very rarely, intelligence develops on a death world. A planet where everything tries to kill everything else, where the environment itself is hostile to life." The hologram shifted to show a blue-green world rotating slowly. "This is Earth, the human home world. Our long-range scouts have finally reached it and completed a basic survey." The display zoomed in to show continents and oceans. What they found defies belief. Data began scrolling across the screen. Gravity readings, atmospheric composition, weather patterns, and geological activity. "The gravity is crushing," Ethmiran explained. "Higher than any world known to produce intelligent life. The atmosphere is corrosive to most species we know. The weather systems are violent beyond imagination. Storms that would level our cities are considered normal events. More data appeared. Images of creatures that lived on Earth. The life forms are nightmare fuel. The scholar continued. Predators with crushing jaws and claws like blades. Creatures that hunt in packs and show no mercy. Diseases that would be biological weapons on most worlds, but are common infections on Earth. The Emperor studied the images. How could intelligent life develop in such conditions? By becoming more dangerous than everything else on the planet, Ethmiran replied. Look at the humans themselves. A biological scan appeared, showing the internal structure of a human being. Bone density 3 times higher than any known intelligent species. Muscle fibers designed for explosive strength. A nervous system that operates at quantum speeds. They are not just intelligent, they are biological weapons shaped by 4 billion years of constant warfare. Admiral Kethvar stepped forward. Your Majesty, this explains what we witnessed. The humans didn't just survive in the radiation field. They thrived in it. They moved through the asteroid field like they were born to it. Because they were. Every environment we consider deadly, added Zorith, is probably similar to what they call home. The Emperor was silent for long moments. Finally, he spoke. What else do we know about Earth? Ethmiran manipulated the display. Our scouts detected massive industrial activity. Cities that sprawl across continents. And the population. He paused. How many? The Emperor asked. Approximately 8 billion humans, Your Majesty. The silence in the chamber was complete. 8 billion creatures, like the ones who had humiliated the Imperial fleet. And their technology? The Emperor asked quietly. Advanced beyond our ability to measure accurately, Ethmiran replied. But more concerning is their philosophy. Our analysis of their communications suggests they view themselves as naturally inferior to other species. Inferior? The Emperor was confused. How can the most dangerous species in the galaxy consider itself inferior? Because they evolved on a death world, they assume all intelligent life is more advanced than they are. They believe they are primitive, compared to galactic civilization. The implications hit everyone in the room at the same time. If the humans thought they were primitive, what would they become if they decided they needed to catch up? Your Majesty, said General Thane of the Imperial War College, we need to consider the strategic implications. If Earth has 8 billion of these creatures, and they possess the industrial capacity to build ships like the Defiance. He didn't need to finish. Everyone could do the mathematics. 8 billion humans. Each one a natural warrior. Supported by technology that made Imperial weapons look primitive. What are they doing now? The Emperor asked. Admiral Kethvar answered. Our intelligence indicates they are mobilizing their fleets. Not for conquest, for protection. They seem to believe they are about to be invaded by hostile aliens. They're not wrong, muttered Zorith. The Emperor shot him a sharp look. Explain, Your Majesty. We attacked them. From their perspective, they encountered an alien empire that immediately tried to capture and imprison them, then sent a massive fleet to destroy them. When they refused to surrender, they have every reason to believe we are hostile. But we are hostile, pointed out General Thane. Are we? Asked the Emperor. Should we be? Ethmiran activated another display. This one showed shipping routes throughout the Empire. Your Majesty, human ships are already having an effect on Imperial commerce. Several cargo convoys have reported being approached by human vessels. In each case, the humans offered assistance and asked if the cargo ships needed help. They're attacking our merchants? No, Your Majesty. They're helping them, repairing damaged ships, providing navigational assistance, and sharing supplies. Our merchants are reporting that humans are the most helpful species they have ever encountered. The Emperor sat back in his throne. Let me understand this. The most dangerous species in the galaxy is also the most helpful? Death worlds breed cooperation as well as aggression, Ethmiran explained. On a planet where everything tries to kill you, the only way to survive is to work together. Humans appear to have evolved both supreme individual capability and an instinct for mutual aid. What does our intelligence say about their military preparations? Admiral Kethvar consulted his datapad. They're building ships, training crews, and developing weapons. But their strategic doctrine is purely defensive. They seem to be preparing to fight a war where they are outnumbered by thousands to one. And they think they can win such a war? Based on what we've seen, Zorith said quietly, they probably could. The Emperor stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the imperial capital. 1,000 years of expansion and conquest had built this empire. Now, a single species threatened everything. What do you recommend? He asked. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some called for immediate attack before the humans could prepare. Others suggested negotiation. A few recommended evacuation to other galaxies. Finally, Ethmiran's voice cut through the noise. Your Majesty, I recommend we consider a possibility that has never occurred before in imperial history, which is that we have encountered our equals, perhaps our superiors, and that our choice is not between conquest and defeat, but between friendship and extinction. The Emperor turned back to face his council. You're suggesting we make peace with the humans? I'm suggesting we make peace with reality. Ethmiran replied. The humans have shown us mercy when they could have shown us destruction. They offer help instead of conquest. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to learn from them rather than fight them. As the Council continued their debate, far across the galaxy, Captain Chen was composing a message to Earth Command. Her report would change the course of human history, just as surely as the Empire's deliberations would change the galaxy. The age of imperial dominance was ending. What would replace it, no one could yet say. 3 months after the Battle of the Maelstrom Nebula, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. News of the Imperial fleet's defeat had spread through black market channels, encrypted communications, and whispered conversations in the shadows of 1,000 worlds. On the mining world of Zirion Prime, the Keltharan workers had heard the stories. A single ship had defeated 50 Imperial vessels. The impossible had become possible. For the first time in generations, they dared to hope. Is it true? Asked Minor Thek, as he worked in the deep tunnels. Did someone really beat the Empire? His partner, an elderly Keltharan named Voss, looked around carefully before answering. The stories say humans did it. Death, world species, natural warriors. Death world? A planet so dangerous that it breeds creatures like living weapons. They say one human ship is worth 12 Imperial cruisers. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered, enslaved, or forced into submission began to whisper about hope. The Empire, for the first time in its history, looked vulnerable. On Earth, United Earth Command was dealing with the greatest crisis in human history. Captain Chen's report had arrived 3 weeks ago, and the implications were staggering. We're not alone, said Admiral Sarah Martinez, as she addressed the Emergency Council. And our first contact has resulted in what may become an interstellar war. The holographic display showed a map of local space. Red zones marked Imperial territory. Blue zones showed human exploration routes. The overlap was significant. What's the status of our fleets? Asked President Chen. No relation to Captain Chen, despite the shared name. Every available ship is being retrofitted for deep space operations, replied Defense Minister Kumar. We're also accelerating the construction of new vessels. If the Empire decides to attack Earth itself, we need to be ready. What about diplomatic options? Asked the President. Admiral Martinez pulled up another display. Captain Chen has established communication with moderate elements in the Imperial government. There's a faction that wants to negotiate rather than fight. And the other faction? They want to destroy us before we become a threat. The President studied the data. Earth's population was preparing for war, but it was unlike any preparation in human history. This wasn't about territory or resources. This was about the survival of the human race. What's our assessment of their military capabilities? Overwhelming in terms of numbers, admitted Admiral Martinez, but inferior in terms of individual ship quality. Our vessels are designed to fight outnumbered and win. Theirs are designed for conventional fleet actions. Can we win if they attack? We can make them wish they hadn't. While Earth prepared for war, Captain Chen found herself in an unexpected position. Diplomat. Her ship had become a neutral meeting ground where Imperial moderates could communicate with human representatives. "Captain," said Dr. Patel, as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports, "the situation is becoming unstable. Several Imperial client species are rebelling. They think humanity is going to liberate them." Chen sipped her coffee and studied the tactical display. "Are we? That's above my pay grade, Captain." The bridge doors opened, and Commander Torres entered. "Captain, we're receiving a priority communication from Emperor Valdris himself." Chen straightened. "The Emperor? Not one of his advisors?" "No, ma'am. His Majesty personally." "Put him through." The main screen activated, showing the most powerful being in the galaxy. Emperor Valdris looked tired, older than in the official portraits. The weight of ruling 1,000 worlds showed in his eyes. "Captain Chen," he began, "I find myself in an unprecedented situation. For the first time in Imperial history, I am requesting a meeting with an equal." "An equal, Your Majesty? Let us not pretend otherwise. Your species has proven itself capable of challenging the Empire's military might. But more than that, you have shown mercy when you could have shown destruction. That suggests a civilization worth talking to." Chen considered carefully. "What kind of meeting are you proposing?" "A formal diplomatic conference. Your representatives and mine, meeting on neutral ground, to establish the boundaries of our respective spheres of influence." "You're suggesting we divide the galaxy?" "I'm suggesting we find a way to share it." The communication ended, leaving Chen staring at a blank screen. The Emperor of the galaxy wanted to negotiate as equals. It was beyond anything Earth had imagined possible. 2 weeks later, the diplomatic station at Kepler 9 hosted the most important meeting in galactic history. The station itself was human-built, a neutral facility in empty space between Imperial and human territory. Captain Chen led the human delegation. She had been promoted to Admiral for the occasion, though she still preferred to be addressed by her old rank. With her came Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, and military advisors. Emperor Valdris had come personally, bringing his most trusted advisors including ancient scholar Ethmiran and, surprisingly, Admiral Kethvar. The first session was formal, full of diplomatic protocol and careful language, but by the second day, real conversations began. "Your Majesty," Chen said during a break in negotiations, "I have to ask, why negotiate? Your empire spans thousands of worlds. We're one species with a few dozen ships." Valdris smiled sadly. "Admiral Chen, in my long life I have conquered many species. Some fought bravely. Some surrendered quickly. Some tried to hide. But none of them changed the fundamental nature of the galaxy. And we have? Look around you. Imperial client species are declaring independence, believing you will support them. Our military commanders are questioning orders, for the first time in centuries. Even my own advisors are suggesting we adopt human tactical doctrines." He paused and looked out at the stars. "Your species has introduced something the galaxy has never seen. The idea that the Empire can be defeated. That changes everything." Scholar Ethmiran nodded. "The psychological impact has been greater than the military one. When people believe change is possible, they start to demand it." The negotiations continued for weeks. Maps were redrawn, territories were defined, and trade agreements were hammered out. But the most important changes were happening elsewhere. The Keltharen Confederation declared independence from the Empire, citing the human doctrine of self-determination. The Empire, distracted by human negotiations, couldn't respond effectively. 3 other species followed suit, then 6 more. "It's like a dam bursting," reported Admiral Martinez to Earth Command. "The Empire is fragmenting. Species that have been conquered for centuries are suddenly demanding freedom. Are we supporting them? Unofficially, we're providing technical assistance and defensive support, but we're not actively fighting Imperial forces. We don't need to." They're too busy dealing with rebellions to threaten us. The final session of the Kepler Conference established what historians would later call the New Galactic Order. The Empire would retain control of its core worlds and loyal species. Humanity would be recognized as an independent power, with rights to explore and colonize unclaimed space. Most importantly, a new principle was established: the right of species to self-determination. This is not the end of the Empire, Emperor Valdris announced in his closing statement. It is the evolution of the Empire. We have learned that true strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. When Endorse sang, Captain Chen's response was simpler. We came to the stars looking for friends. We're glad to have found them. 6 months later, the UES Defiance was on patrol near the human colony of New Geneva when they received a distress call. A ship was in trouble near the edge of Imperial space. It's a Zephyrian merchant vessel, reported Dr. Patel. Their engines are failing. Set course to intercept, Chen ordered. Let's see if we can help. When they arrived, the Zephyrian captain was surprised to see a human warship responding to his call. Human vessel, he transmitted. I was not expecting. Relax, Chen replied. We're here to help. What's your situation? As her crew worked to repair the Zephyrian ship, Chen reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer divided between the Empire and everyone else. Now it was a complex web of alliances, trade partnerships, and mutual defense agreements. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the species that had proven change was possible. The UES Defiance, the ship that had started it all, continued its mission of exploration, but now it traveled through a galaxy where human ships were welcomed, where Earth's colonies prospered, and where the word impossible had lost much of its meaning. In the end, it wasn't human weapons or technology that changed the galaxy. It was the simple human belief that things could always be better, and the willingness to fight for that belief. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity was proud to be their guardian.